Free Golden Eagles for War Thunder. Download the app in the description below. Hey guys, welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to some leisureful TAR 152 C-3 gameplay. Today's gameplay is actually going to be extremely boring, but there's going to be a lot of kills and a bit of comedy, so I think you guys are going to enjoy a bit of a change of pace. Mainly because we're talking about props, and because a lot has changed and yet a lot has remained the same. Let's take a look at what I mean. For better understanding, we have to go back in time to late spring, early summer when the plane was first introduced. It was overhyped. Players had assumed that because it has 5 guns it's going to be phenomenal for some reason. It's not all about guns, even though we're talking about German planes here and they do have spectacular armament. The plane ended up being a giant disappointment, a flop as we like to refer to it, and it was hard to play. Now, I remember going through the matches, trying to spade it, and really what was about it was flying at medium altitudes where it performed best and trying to infuse sort of defensive flying, a mixture of Focke-Wulf and BFR9 energy fighting. It was hard. I mean, I've been doing defensive flying for years now. I mean, really been doing it mostly in jets, and with props it's a little bit tougher because of the different speeds that we're working with, but it was challenging. Sure, the kills were satisfactory, but the challenge that it was kind of forced. You see, if I want a challenge flying an aircraft out, I'll make it a challenge. I don't want an aircraft in itself to be a challenge. And as time went by, the plane supposedly got a fix, but a couple of things changed with the way the game functions. Mainly, the introduction of spawns for interceptors was introduced, which means that this plane gets an air spawn at the start of a match, which is really something that you'd only get on Norway, and now you can get it on all of the maps where Germans fight. At least, to my knowledge, you'll be fighting mostly on Ruhr and mostly on Sicily. I think Sicily's been spammed out way too much, and there's a couple of things that this map really should do to fix itself up. We've seen changes with the introduction of the smaller bombing points, which then lead up to the airfield. Before that wasn't the case. And another thing I noticed is that the Bf-110 and the Beaufighter, the 3 AI that was circling about, I think, 5,000 to 6,000 meters above the battlefield, they were referred to as spotter planes, they've been removed. The reason this baffles me is because the Sicily AI were the only AI that I consider properly placed AI, because if you wanted to go for the AI, you'd have to climb up to 5,000-6,000 meters, which really is combat altitude for most players. Meanwhile, the low-flying Bf-110s and Me-410s, or whatever the planes we got now, or Beaufighters, right, on Norway, they remained. So, you know, it's to anyone's guess why that's so. Now, to return to the match here, and to return to the plane, what has changed is mostly its performance. It feels responsive now, it feels a bit more agile, but there is the issue with the Focke-Wulf's overheating, so you will be having to play around with mech controls. At least I would recommend you play around with some mech controls, open and close the radiator and oil radiator flaps, might help out with the engine not dying out so early. Other than that, I have to say that the assumption of guns over performance really wasn't that far-fetched. I mean, the plane still has those magnificent armament, which is kind of what you thrive off of most of the time. And in this match, and by the way, just to clarify, this was the one and only match I played, and really I didn't need any more from it. It was my my guilty pleasure of the day, because when I looked below me, and this is the thing about Sicily that I don't like, is the clouds. There's often clouds on Sicily for some reason, and it's also been Sicily. The clouds have been everywhere, and I hate clouds. I think that if matches had no clouds and no weather and no night matches, I'd be a whole lot more happier. Sure, a lot of players have arguments for it, but you know what? I'm going to make a video very shortly. I flew the Arado C-3, and there was a particular situation where night matches are a bit of an annoyance, and I'll explain my reasoning as to why. But when your cloud limit is right where your plane performs best, and you know that the entire enemy team is going to be below that cloud limit because we are, after all, fighting Americans, and they, you know, climbing is overrated. I just said, fuck it. There's a low-flying F4U Corsair, he's got a nice little bounty on his head, so I thought I'd go say hi. And to the remainder of this match, I kind of flew like, well, I didn't care. I didn't preserve the ammunition. I didn't really particularly watch out for any engagements or any planes on my 6. I just went with the flow, and I was surprised and really not surprised. You remember when I said that things have changed but not a lot has changed? What I mean by that is that what's changed is the plane's performance. What's changed is the layout on the map. What's changed is the certain amount of sparks that the guns produce. What's not changed is players shooting through you to get the kill. What's not changed is me ripping my flaps off. What's not changed, most definitely, is American teams climbing. For me, seeing Wyverns at low altitude doesn't surprise me. The Wyvern is not a high altitude fighter, but seeing P-51s, Corsairs, a lot of these planes that should have been carrying, there was not a single plane on the enemy team above an altitude of 3,000 meters, and the highest player we encountered was towards the end of the match, which was a late spawned in B-17, of course. You know, I recall the sort of meme that was traveling around for a while when I don't know what video it even was. I would have to really go and backlog this, but in one of the videos I said, I used the phrase, "you have to side climb." And for some reason, to this day, still, nobody is side climbing. I've got a friend recently, those of you who watch my live streams, by the way, you should follow me on Twitch. JJ just started playing War Thunder again. He's going through the American tech tree. He's reached up to the P-51, the first one at 3.7, and he said something incredible to me. And he said, these American planes are exclusive boom and zoomers, and they perform amazingly as long as you follow one simple rule, and that's climbing. Now, of course you're going to say, well, Germans climb better. Yes. So all you have to do is ensure that you are above them when the engagement starts, and stay above them, and you're guaranteed a victory. But of course, climbing is apparently a waste of time, it's apparently a waste of effort, and players simply don't do it. And then I go around YouTube and I'm reading my own comment section and somebody telling me, Orange, the P-47 is a designated ground attacker, and if you use your bombs effectively, you're going to win the match. I don't think that that person making such comments and such accusations has ever won a match killing ground targets in the P-47. As a matter of fact, the only players and the only planes that I've seen win in realistic battle air matches killing ground targets were right here in Sicily, ironically enough, not on the Allied team. Because those are the HE-219s and the Ducks and the ME-410s, things with HVAP ammo. Hortons even. Definitely not Allies. And I was kind of laughing throughout this match because it felt like all the effort, all the screaming sort of, all the agonizing drama surrounded the American teams and Allied teams, or whatever we want to refer to them. Nobody's climbing, still to this day. Bombers are being spammed out, players are going at low altitudes. You know what, I've given up, to be honest. I don't care anymore. And if there's nothing else, flying German sort of is just leisureful. Also, that kill right there, that was the last burst I had, because I just went through all the ammunition I had and I'm now returning back to the airfield. That's an ace match, without conserving any ammunition, without looking more or less or caring what I was doing, and still, we win by a landslide. And just to digress on my own words before the backlash comes in, because I feel like every single time I criticize a particular team, a particular portion of the game, they take it very much to heart. Let me clarify something for you, and this goes for the entire internet, not just for War Thunder or just for YouTube. Constructive criticism is not hate. If people listened to criticism and they took it in as something positive, perhaps they would actually be able of bettering themselves. But instead, there sort of seems to be this backlash in the community where any kind of criticism is immediately portrayed as hate, and when you do that to a content creator, not just myself included, you really take away all of the motivation of me ever bothering to help you again. So instead, I'll try a different approach, and I'll challenge you. If you're suffering from this inexistent, poor performance of American planes, if you're suffering from, perhaps if this is still around, the inexistence of Russian bots, I don't know, my chat's been turned off, I've been enjoying the peace and quiet of playing the game. If you're suffering from losing matches, why don't you go into a 2-man, 3-man, maybe a 4-man squad in your P-51 D5 that's utterly down-tiered and under-tiered at 4.3, and how about you climb up to 6,500 meters? And then when you're up there, start boom and zooming, and at no point should your plane be below the enemy plane. Play 10 matches in a row, and then tell me how the results go. After that, come back to this video and tell me if the plane really is underperforming. And really, it's about finding the problem. Because often enough, a pilot will be the problem. Often enough, a plane might be the problem. If this was a T-152, the C-3 back in late spring, early summer, I would have very easily said, yeah, it's not the pilot, it's definitely the plane, because it was broken. It didn't perform as well as it should for its battle rating. But if somebody said the T-152 C-3 performs badly now, I would tell you, you're probably doing something wrong. And that is me providing constructive criticism, not hating on you. And with that out of the way, I just wanted to touch on to what I think about aerialistic battles at the moment, mainly because I haven't been around for a bit. I've been stuck up in tanks. I've been currently grinding through all the 4 nations. I'm currently going through late tier 3 in the British tank lineup. I've been absolutely enjoying the Comet, and I like some of the Churchills, but overall I've really lost connection to, you know, the aircraft that I used to fly out the most. So over the next couple of weeks, I will do my best endeavor to return back to late tier 4 props, some of the early tier 4 props. I might even stoop back to tier 3. No promises, but I might fly a couple of maybe P-47s and planes alike. So if there is something in late tier 3 that you want me to fly out, please do put it in the comment section, and I'll try to get it done as soon as possible. My current verdict on air battles is there's been a lot of positive changes. The air spawn for, well, in the case of the Axis here, you've got the T-152. I know the Dornier 335, the file, will spawn up at altitude as well. And these are not bad changes. These are fantastic changes that were introduced back when bomber spam was a bit prominent. However, with bomber spam being reduced back to the 4 bombers, and really bombers not having much of a use in the game, I think something about bombers should be done, and perhaps not as extreme as my suggestion of let's just remove them, but we'll talk more about bombers in an upcoming video on the Arado C-3. I gotta say, one of my favorite things about these lower tier matches, I do consider everything below tier 5 lower tiered, because technically it is, I've played through everything. So going back to it sort of infuses this nostalgia state, and those 5-7 minutes that you spend climbing is where I think you guys can get a lot of work done. I always joke around that AFK climbing shouldn't be done. Now, hear me out here and be very careful with my words, because I will be specific. If you know the matchmaker, and if you know the flight paths where the enemy will be and where you can safely go into an AFK climb with your prop for about 5 to 6 minutes, and you can spend that time watching a YouTube video. And if you do this every single match, you could spend those 5 minutes, match after match, learning and educating about the way the game works. I'm not just talking about watching for enjoyment, I'm talking about watching to learn how to play. Let's say you're right now flying just this, the T-152 C-3. My suggestion would be, I would go into YouTube, I would find every video made by any YouTuber you can find on the C-3, and I would watch it game after game. So as you're playing, you're doing double the work. You're receiving your own personal knowledge, your own personal kind of, well, feeling of the plane, whilst also taking in the opinions of others. And so by the time you've done through your 10 free repairs, whilst you're done through your first couple of upgrades, you should have these 2 really important opinions, merge them together, and you should technically know where the plane excels and how to fly it. And I think that way of learning is sort of much better than watching a video and then mimicking the playstyle of the video in its own. Mix it together. You know, if I have a particular playstyle, which for me I'd say I'm very aggressive, take that and mix in a bit of defensive flying. You know, try different sort of tactics. There's never anything wrong, and when you have the 10 free repairs, use them well. They will benefit you in the end. And there really is no moral to this video, but me really having a bit of a conversation with myself, because I've been lacking this. I've been really missing the prop combat. I keep saying that I'm not interested in it, that it's too boring for me. I do like the fast-paced action, but I know for a fact that once I've gotten through most of the grind, you know, once I'm done with the majority of the vehicles being spaded, I will return back to these props, because there's something that's so mesmerizing about slow-paced combat, because there's not a lot of prediction going on. It's a much more instantaneous combat choices, and it's very enjoyable to participate in. There's obviously still problems with performance of AAA and bombers camping on the runway, but you know, there's always going to be something you can find to literally shit on. Overall, I think for now, with the current state of jet combat, you're going to be seeing a lot more props, which, to be honest, a lot of you are probably going to find quite handy. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys on my live stream tomorrow between 7 and 10 PM Central European time, but until then you can follow me on Twitter or Snapchat, and I'll get back at you with another video, hopefully on Friday. Take care, and safe flying.